Hey, it's Matty P. There's a new starter set called Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. We're going to review it today, but how does it compare to the old starter set, Lost Mines of Phandelver? Let me put that to bed right now. This is better for new Dungeon Masters, though this was better for new players. Though for some reason in my Lost Mines of Phandelver, it just says subscribe on the other side. Come on, wizards, get it together. There will be some people who try and convince you that this isn't good. They're going to call you up on the phone and they're going to say, hello, I'm just calling to tell you that this adventure is too short, it's too simple, it's not as good as Lost Mines of Phandelver. You can hang up on those people because they're wrong. It's a good adventure. I've already run it twice. And yeah, I'll vouch for it, okay? In about a week, we're going to start a series of guides on how you can run it yourself. But for now, I just want to do an honest review. And if you're looking to avoid spoilers, then you should skip ahead by about 30 seconds, because here are the main story beats. The party arrives on Stormwreck Isle to go to Dragon's Rest, which is a kind of monastery populated by some monastic humans and a bunch of friendly kobolds. This monastery has a dragon whelpling, a bronze dragon whelpling that kind of protects the place. But this dragon has gone missing. Here they get two side quests. One is to stop this toxic gas leaking into this Myconid settlement, which is causing them to go very aggressive. And the other is to visit the wreck of the Compass Rose and stop this evil undead curse from causing zombies to wander and wash onto the mainland. And then they can get to the final dungeon, which is to confront Sparkrender the Blue Dragon, who plans to sacrifice that captured bronze dragon in some dark ritual to correspond with the crossing of the King Killer Star. It's all very dramatic. Audience-wise, this is definitely intended for beginner dungeon masters. It radiates newbie-friendly energy. Like if I had a friend or a sibling or a kid who was saying, I want to try running D&D, then I would first say, you should try running a one-shot, see if you like it, get a handle of the rules. But if they said, I want to try running a campaign, this is what I would give them. But even as an experienced dungeon master, I still got something out of this because it's so simple that it freed up some brain space when I was running the game for me to experiment with things that I haven't experimented with before. In my instance, I was tracking time diligently. I was going, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and planning events all the way along the timeline. And if this was a bigger adventure, then I probably wouldn't have the brain space to be that creative with time. So for experienced dungeon masters, I'd recommend using this to isolate particular elements of your game that you want to practice. Just like the original starter set, this new one comes with 5 pre-gens. And, sorry, hey, you've got something behind your ear. Let me get that for you. E? What the hell does that mean? Look, I'm just going to put it with the subscribe. So this one comes with 5 pre-gens, just like the old one. Here's something bad though. Here's a thumbs down about these pre-gens. There are errors on the sheets, and there are still errors on the PDF as of filming this. So literally right now, if you own this, let's fix those errors, okay? On the Rogue's character sheet, the investigation score should be +3, not +0. On the Wizard's character sheet, the deck save should be +2, not +3. And also on the Wizard's character sheet, they should have proficiency with longbows because they're an elf. I proofread all the sheets and I think I got all the errors, but if you find any, let me know downstairs and I'll add it to the pinned comment. But even despite those typos, this is an overall thumbs up for the character sheets because these character classes and builds are much more varied than the old pre-gens that were in Lost Mines. There's a new layout to these character sheets that I think is a little bit more intuitive for new players. And also, I really like that on the back of these, every character has a custom little side quest that feels much more relevant to the overall story of Dragons of Stormwreck Isle than the side quest felt for the characters for Lost Mines of Phandelver. And what's really cool is that in the actual book, there's a special section addressing how to complete or at least address and include each of their custom backstories. Some are better than others, but overall, thumbs up. But hey, let's briefly talk about the way this book communicates the adventure. There are some good things in here as far as communication, like every single encounter for the 2 side quests has, here's what this encounter should be balance-wise for level 1, and here's what the encounter should be for level 2. It also has specific and explicit Dungeon Master advice for some encounters, but there's a lot of thumbs down in here as well, because it doesn't actually communicate the structure of the story very well. It's got such a simple structure in this adventure, and I would have loved to have seen just a little flowchart like we had in Storm King's Thunder. And the book kind of miscommunicates what's important for the adventure. It really front loads a bunch of lore about this ancient red dragon and blah, 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 blah. And that just doesn't really come into the adventure at all. I thought reading this, it was gonna be an adventure about an ancient red dragon, and it's not. It's about a blue dragon whelpling. Please tell me who the villain is immediately in the story. Tell me who they are, what they want, how they're going to do it, and what are the consequences of them doing it. But here's the real juice. Let's thumbs up and thumbs down the whole adventure, the actual story and the gameplay that you get to experience. But I want to preface this by saying, I don't mind if an adventure is not perfect. In fact, I'd almost prefer that. If I ever read an adventure book and everything in it was like, oh, I'm going to do this exactly the way the book says, I would be disappointed by that. You know, my players should just read the book and have their own fun. Like, I look past shortcomings in adventure modules in general, because when I see something that is wrong, I go, oh, this sucks. But I know how I could do it better. And me thinking, oh, I know how to do it better, that's what gets me excited to run it. Let's talk about the villain first. Take a look at this box, right? What do you see there? Oh my goodness, it's a blue dragon and a bunch of people fighting the blue dragon. This adventure fulfills the promise on the box. It says it's about fighting a blue dragon, and you know what? It is. I appreciate that a lot. But there are some thumbs down here as well, because throughout the adventure, we don't have any kind of incremental goals for the villain. Like, we don't get to see them progress on their plan. And also there's no room made in the adventure to explain what actually happens mechanically if the villain succeeds in their plan. I think that's important information, and that's something to help me characterize that villain a bit and know how to roleplay them, because then I know the stakes. Structurally, the adventure's so-so, because it starts with a thumbs down hook. The first scene is being dropped off onto the beach by a friendly boat, and then they row away, and then like zombies show up for kind of no reason. And it's just not the strong start that I would want from an adventure. But don't worry, we'll fix that. We'll fix that. But there's a good dungeon. There's a really good dungeon with this shipwreck and like a fun scene with a harpy and an undead curse. It's really fun to run that dungeon. The other dungeon though, the other side quest with the myconids in this cave is a little awkward to run, because the myconids aren't necessarily evil, right? They're a little bit aggressive. So it's a combination of like, are we fighting these creatures or are we negotiating with them? And what I know about myself as a new player is I would fight them, and I don't think the adventure wants me to. Here's a structural choice I'm not sure about. Could be good, could be bad. The final dungeon is gated because the bridge to the dungeon is destroyed and the players can't get there until that bridge is repaired by an NPC. Now, some people are going to read that and see an invisible wall in a video game. Like, how dare you keep me out of this content, video game dungeon master? But reading that from the perspective of a new dungeon master, I think I would find that relieving, because new dungeon masters sometimes get anxious about, what do I do if the players just go straight to the final dungeon before they're ready? Oh my goodness, all my plans, what do I do? And this just takes that option off the table. Let's talk about the NPCs, because in the Lost Mines of Phandelver, my most popular video was about Phandalin. People were going, there are too many NPCs here. How do I run them all? Matt, please help. Well, in this, it is much more pared down. There are fewer NPCs, less brain space required. At Dragon's Rest, there are like 9 kobolds. That could be overwhelming, but the adventure suggests only including 1 or 2 of them in any kind of real way. But there are also a few human monks there, and these characters have good backstories and they're really fleshed out. They get half a page of text each, and I felt really comfortable role-playing them with that information. I think it's pretty good. But there is one NPC that commits a big thumbs down cardinal sin, something that I hate. There is an allied NPC in this book that is much more powerful than the players. This is a CR13 NPC. And I don't know about you, but I personally hate seeing the players being overshadowed by a very powerful NPC. Let's talk about the kind of creatures you get to face in this adventure, because big thumbs up, there is some interesting choices for these creatures. You're not doing those newbie cliches of, oh, we're fighting the goblins and the orcs. Instead, You get these deep cuts. You get to fight a harpy. You get to fight meet myconids, which is pretty exciting. And you do get the classic experience of fighting a dragon. But one particular stat block gets a big thumbs down from me. It's zombies. There are a few zombie fights in this book, and I don't find zombies satisfying at all. They take forever to kill. Sometimes they come back to life, and they don't pose any kind of real threat. They just feel like a time sink that I'm going to have to homebrew when I make my guides about how to run this. But when we talk about the loot in this adventure, the rewards of Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, I actually think it kind of fails here a bit. Because, yeah, you do find a lot of health potions. You do find a spell scroll, I think, and boots of elven kind. But all the good loot is actually in the monster's hoard right at the end of the adventure. So you only get the good stuff when the adventure's over. But if you compare it directly to the Lost Mines of Phandelver, by level 3, these players are already decked out. In this adventure, the players are expected to get 3 spell scrolls, which is Charm Person, Fireball, and Augury, a +1 longsword, Staff of Defense, a Potion of Invisibility, and 5 pots of healing. In this adventure, in Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, I don't know. I want some fun stuff. And what am I meant to spend my gold on? We're going to find almost 1,000 gold worth of money and gems and stuff in this new starter set, but there's no real shop for me to spend that much money reasonably. I could buy mundane items, but I feel like the adventure's missing a gold sink. But overall, I really do think this adventure has good bones. And some of the window dressing, some of those decisions that I don't like, those things that I want to correct, those mistakes, I'm excited about correcting them. I see through those mistakes and I see the adventure as it would play out at my table, as it has played out at my table for these 2 sessions that I've just finished running. So we are going to totally fix this, okay? I'm going to make a 10-part guide on completely how to run this and how to fix it the hey, it's Matty P way. If you're looking to chat with people about running this adventure, do me a favor, come over to my Discord and we have a special room for it. I also made a Facebook group specifically for running this adventure, which I will link to downstairs. Or if you want to get a bunch of resources that I'm going to make to help run this, check out my Patreon. All these great patrons down here. Thank you so much, patrons. And I'll see you next week when we start our coverage of the adventure.